It's August 2nd, 2022. I'm Todd Dunn, and today I'm doing another video in my Buying an Old Fiberglass Sailboat series. So today I want to look at the question, should you buy an old fiberglass sailboat? Basically what I want to do is talk about some of the considerations that going into making the decision to buy an old fiberglass sailboat. And a lot of them are centered around one word: money. And the question then is, why does money matter? Well, obviously it matters because it's a function of how much money you have. How much boat do you want? Yeah, I could go out and buy myself a brand new 40-foot sailboat if I had $1 million to spend on it. Or I could go and look at an old fiberglass sailboat and maybe spend 3, 4, 5% of that. So it depends a lot on how much money you have and how much boat you want. But there are other money aspects also. But let's look at that. How much money do you have? Well, it's important how much money you have, because on an old boat, like we've been talking about, something built, say, prior to 1982, 40 years or older, it might be very difficult to finance the boat. A lot of banks don't want to risk money on an old boat. About the only way you'll be able to finance it is if it surveys really well. But to get to survey, you have to put an offer on the boat. And you can do that if you don't have the money to pay cash for the boat, but make sure that your offer is contingent on acquiring financing. Otherwise, you might find yourself having to walk away from your deposit, which is typically 10% of the purchase price. And that could be very painful. So make sure if you haven't arranged financing when you go to look at a boat and make an offer, that the offer is contingent on getting acceptable financing. Now, some people may not accept that kind of offer. You never know. Anyway, so financing can be a big factor. And in a case of a boat, particularly if it's an old boat, say 70s vintage or 60s vintage, that maybe is not in the world's greatest shape, you simply may not be able to get financing on the boat, and you may have to pay cash for the boat. So that is an aspect of money that you need to be aware of. Realistically, if you're looking at old fiberglass sailboats, you should be prepared to write a check for the purchase price. But that's not all the money you're going to need. You're going to need money to pay for a survey, which you're going to need to get insurance. Then you're going to have to buy insurance. How much does insurance cost? Well, insurance varies with the value of the boat. And it varies. It doesn't just go up as the boat gets more expensive. There's an oddity that I've noticed about boat insurance and that is that the more expensive the boat is, the cheaper the insurance is per $1,000 of valuation. For example, this boat, my Allied Princess 36 from 1972. Took me a while to find insurance for this boat, but once I did, I ended up paying about 3% of the valuation of the boat, which is what's on the insurance policy, per year for insurance. So I have this boat insured for around about $40,000, and my insurance, which is an agreed value yacht policy, costs $1,200 a year. Now, if I went out and bought a $150,000 boat, say a 1970s vintage Hinckley Bermuda 40, which I would love to have, by the way, I might end up paying somewhere between 1 and 1.5% of the value of the boat per year for insurance. So that $150,000 boat might cost me $1,500 to $2,250 a year for insurance. So that means that for more than triple the value, I'd be paying less than twice as much money. So insurance is a consideration. But if you're buying an old boat in the $50K or less range, you might want to be prepared to put up around 3% of the purchase price every year for insurance. And you're going to need that up front when you buy the boat so that you can buy that first year insurance. And so that's another money factor. Now, when you actually buy the boat, the standard deposit that you put on a boat when you buy it is 10%, which is coincidentally the broker's commission. I wonder why brokers want a 10% deposit. Oh, it must just be coincidence. Anyway, so when you buy a boat, if you're buying a $50,000 boat, you need to be prepared to write a $5,000 check with your offer. And then you have to find the other $45,000 of your offer before you close. And you're going to have to pay for survey. Typically, a survey costs about $20 a foot for a purchase survey. So if you're buying a 35-foot boat, you're going to have to be prepared to come up with about $700 for the survey. Plus, if the boat's in the water, you're going to have to get it hauled out as part of the survey, and that's probably going to cost you $350 to $400 around here anyway, to have the boat hauled out on a travel lift and hanging there for an hour or so while the surveyor looks at the hull, and then put back in the water. So just to make an offer on a $50,000 boat, you're going to have to come up with that $5,000 deposit. You're going to have to come up with, if it's a 35-footer, with about $700 for the survey that you pay the surveyor, and maybe another $400 for the haul out. So we're looking at $6,100 right there, and you haven't gone into contract yet. Now, I've talked about surveys before. They can pay for themselves, but you have to be prepared to negotiate. Okay, so that's a money aspect that you need to be aware of. And as I said, it's a good idea if you're buying an old fiberglass boat to basically be able to pay cash for it. Now, you've bought the old fiberglass boat. You paid cash for it. You paid for the survey. You paid for the haul out. You paid for insurance. Now, what are other cash outlays you're going to have to come up with? Well, the first one is, where are you going to keep the boat? I mean, if you're fortunate enough to own a waterfront property and have your own dock, you don't have to worry about that. You just tie it up at the dock in front of your multi-million-dollar summer cottage. But not all of us who are looking for bargain price boats are in that position. Now, here in Maine, we have two options for where to keep a boat. We can put the boat on a mooring. That's normally the cheap option. If you don't own your own mooring, you're going to have to rent one, and that probably is going to cost you in the $1,500 or more per year range for the summer season here. So you have to be ready to pay that. The other option is to put the boat into a marina. Now, if you can find an available slip in a marina, you're going to have to pay for that. And how much that costs varies quite a bit around the country, but the typical price is going to be on the order of $10 to $15 per foot of the length of the boat per month for a marina slip. Now here in Maine, we have to pay for a seasonal slip. And that costs at this marina $145 a foot. So this boat cost, 36-foot boat cost $5,220 to keep at the marina. So you have to be ready to pay that. You may have to pay it all up for the whole season, or if you're in a marina that's all year, you might want to have to pay it only on a monthly basis. But you have to pay it every month, which for a boat this size is probably going to run somewhere between about $400 and $550 a month for marina space. And if you just want to set your own mooring out in the harbor, well, you may or may not be able to do that depending on where you are. Here in Southwest Harbor, Maine, the waiting list to set your own mooring is years long. So you can't just buy a boat and figure on putting in your own mooring around here to hang the boat on. You're probably, as I said, going to have to rent one. But if you were lucky enough to get permission to set your own mooring, well, that's going to cost some money. I would say here, about $2,500 to set your own mooring. That's for the anchor, which here is a big lump of granite, the bottom chain, the top chain, the float, and your mooring pennant. So $2,500 you're going to have to come up with there. As I think you're seeing that when you buy an old fiberglass boat, and the reason you're buying an old fiberglass boat is to save money, that really purchasing the boat is when the cash outlays start. And a lot of them just go on and on and on. So you have to be ready for that. And if you're in a place like Maine, well, we don't keep our boats in the water here in the winter, so you're going to have the boat hauled out, have the masts unstepped, and put the boat in storage for the winter. For this boat, where I store, which is one of the cheapest yards around, I pay about $3,500 a winter to store the boat. In a lot of other places, it's going to be more. Outside storage at most of the other yards around here, it's going to be $3,500 to $4,000, and inside storage will probably be almost double that. So it adds up quickly, and that's another outlay you have to be ready for. Now, if you're further south and you keep your boat in the water all year, well, what you're going to be doing is paying marina bills all year, or paying for a place to keep your dinghy if you have your boat on a mooring so that you can go to the boat. And but these are all expenses you have to be prepared for when you buy any boat, and an old fiberglass boat in particular, where you're trying to save money by buying the boat. Of course, you could simply buy the boat that's in the water, take it out and anchor it out, and live aboard that way. There are places around here where you could do that. Might be a little difficult to get to shore in some of those places, and even once you were ashore, it might be a little difficult to get to anything, but you can do it. And anchoring out is normally free, except for wear and tear on your anchor gear, but that's a different sort of expense. Okay, now the next question is, should you buy an old fiberglass boat? Now, if you've got the money, should you buy it? Well, there's another money aspect of it, and that is that sailboats lose value over time. If you go out and you buy a brand new sailboat for $500,000, in 3 or 4 years, it's going to be worth a lot less than that. Maybe 3/4, maybe even as little as half of what you paid for it. It depends on the boat and the condition it's in a year or two. Now, that depreciation does tend to flatten out, and after a while, boat value, if it's maintained in reasonable condition and everything works, is going to kind of hit bottom. And you're hoping when you buy an old fiberglass sailboat that your boat has hit bottom in terms of price. But what that means is that if I bought this boat for, say, $40,000, which is what I have it insured for, and 5 years from now I decided to sell it, well, I could probably figure on maybe, if I was lucky, getting my $40,000 back. Maybe not. Depends on, the market at the time. If it's a tight market, which is not usually the case for old fiberglass sailboats because there are lots of them out there, they don't wear out unless people just completely abandon them. You probably are not going to get your money back completely, your purchase price, and there's all the money you spent on the boat over the years that you're never going to see again. You bought those new self-tailing winches for $3,000. Well, that's not going to change the value of your boat. What it might do is make the boat sell, whereas a boat that still has the original 50-year-old non-self-tailing winches might just sit there. So that's a consideration too. Basically, your boat probably has hit bottom in price, and it's not going to change for most old fiberglass sailboats. This boat, for example, Allied Princess 36, the range of prices when they show up on Yacht World is typically in about the $30,000 to $50,000 range, depending on exactly how old the boat is. These boats were built over a period of about 10 years. The older ones may be worth a little bit less than the newer ones, but all of them are getting old enough now that they pretty much all hit bottom price-wise and aren't going to change much, and consequently there isn't a big range. And most of what you're looking at in the price range is the condition of the boat at the time of the sale. Does it have new electronics? Does it have decent winches? Is the engine functioning properly, and does it have low engine hours? Is the rig in good shape? Is it relatively new? Are the sails in good shape? If you find a boat that has good sails, a relatively new rig, it's been repowered within the last few years, the wood is all in beautiful condition, all well varnished, no sign of cabin leaks, deck leaks, has new self-tailing winches, or like this boat has electric self-tailing winches, that one might be near the top of the price range. You find one that's pretty much all original, has the original cushions, has a small, weak old diesel that puts out a big cloud of gray smoke when it's running. Well, that one's going to be down near the bottom of the price range. And you might be able to fix it up and get it to move up to the middle of the price range, but you're not going to you might spend $50,000 on the boat and move it from a $30,000 boat to a $40,000 boat. So can be a big consideration. And it's something you never want to look at a sailboat, particularly an old fiberglass sailboat, as an investment. Because it's an investment, all right, but it has a significant negative return financially. In other words, you're going to spend a lot more money on ownership of the boat and maintenance and upgrades and all that than you're going to recover when you sell the boat. For example, I've owned this boat for 27 years. During that time, I'm currently on my third chart plotter. I've installed 2 radars, and I need to buy another one if I want to have radar. I currently don't have radar, and that reflects how we use the boat. My wife won't set foot on the boat if the word fog is in the forecast for the next week. So I don't need radar. The engine is strong. I've had it out, had it reconditioned. It's in good shape. I have electric self-tailing winches. My sails are in okay shape. They're not great, but they're okay. I replaced the standing rig, all that stuff. That's a lot of money. I am not going to recover that money when I sell this boat. I think if I paid 38,000 for this boat when I bought it 27 years ago, if I'm really lucky, I might walk away from it with that much. Probably not, because even if I say sold it for 40,000, the top 10% is going to go to the broker and I'm going to walk away with 36. So chances are, when I sell this boat, I'm not even going to come out of it with as much money as I put into it 27 years ago. And I'm certainly not going to pay for any of the upgrades I did, like these sunbrella cushions. That money is not ever coming back to me. And you have to be aware of that. That you buy that old fiberglass boat, and you fix it up to make it just the way you want it, get everything the way you like it, get all the wood varnished, maybe even paint the hull, do all that. Chances are you're not going to recover any of that upgrade money. Just the way it is with old fiberglass sailboats. There are just too many of them out there for one that's priced at double the price for the bulk of them is ever going to sell. You can put it on the market. I could put this boat on the market for 100 grand and it will just sit there. And eventually the broker will say, well, we ought to either drop the price or cancel this listing, because nobody's even going to come look at it. So that's a big factor that you have to be prepared for. You're not going to recover money you put into upgrades, and if you're lucky, you'll get back out of the boat what you paid for it, but probably not. So it's a money loser. The only plus of it is that for, say, 40 grand, plus maybe another 5 or 6 grand in purchase costs and minor upgrades, you could have a boat like this that's a comfortable boat for cruising, plenty of room for 2 people, and is tough enough to head out and go pretty much anywhere you want. But, don't go into it thinking you're going to recover your money, or that all those upgrades are going to be for anything other than because you want them. The money I just spent, $800 on a new chart plotter, that didn't really affect the value of the boat at all, because a purchaser may say, I hate Ray Marine chart plotters, and want to take it out and put a Garmin on. So that $800 is gone. I spent it because I wanted a new chart plotter, not because I ever expected to see that money again. So those are some of the big considerations. And another consideration is, when you're looking for old fiberglass sailboats, should you buy one for, say, if you were looking at an Allied Princess for $30,000 that needs a good deal of work, or should you go all out and buy the one for $50,000 that doesn't look like it needs anything? Well, that is a real consideration. I mean, basically what you're doing there is you're trading 20 grand for all of the costs that would go into upgrading the boat, a cheaper boat, to get it up to the condition of the one for $50,000, and for all the sweat equity that you would put in. Now, if you've got the extra money, it may well be worth it, because if you buy a boat that's in good condition, you can just sail away. If you buy a boat that's beat and needs a lot of work, you might spend a year or more working on it. And that's another factor. If you buy a boat that needs work, where are you going to put it while you work on it? If it needs work that requires it to be out of the water, you're going to have to find a boat yard that will let you work on the boat. That is becoming harder and harder. Matter of fact, I only know 1 or 2 boat yards around here that will let you touch the boat after it's hauled out. Some of them don't even want you to go aboard, for liability reasons. So that's another factor. If it needs work, where are you going to do it? You're going to have to pay for space for it. So there are good arguments to be made for spending more money and buying a boat that's in good condition, sail away condition, as opposed to spending a little less and buying a boat that needs a good deal of work that you're going to either have to pay to have done or pay for a place to do it yourself. Like if the boat needs a bottom job, it's going to have to be out of the water, and might be difficult to find a boatyard that'll let you do a bottom job on your boat, because they're going to be concerned about, okay, you're taking the bottom paint off. That's going to create a lot of dust. Is that dust going to get on the boat next to you in the yard? They don't want that to happen. So you have to, find a yard that's amenable to you working on it, and you have to work on it in a way that's consistent with their requirements. And that may make it very difficult to do the kind of things you want to do. So there's definitely something to be said, if you have the money, to spending a little more up front and buying that boat that's ready to go. For example, I was looking at Yacht World last night, and there's a 1966 Hinckley Bermuda 40 for sale. It's a little more money, $135K, but it has a new mast, it has new sails, it has new roller furling, has a new engine, has a relatively new all-grip paint job, and in the pictures the boat looks perfect. That boat, notwithstanding the fact that it's a Hinckley, which means it's built to the highest possible standard, is ready to sail away. It's in a shed. All you'd have to do is launch it, go aboard, tune the rig, and off you go. Doesn't look like it needs anything. Now, probably there are a few things that it would need to be done, and you might want to change some things to meet your requirements, specific details, but you could just head out. And actually, that's a good thing to do if you buy a boat. Use it for a while before you start spending a lot of money upgrading it, because when you use it, you will find out what you really want to upgrade. Some stuff may turn out not to be that important to you, and any upgrade represents money. Okay, so I hope that gives you some things to think about when you're looking at buying an old fiberglass sailboat. Money. That's a big factor in buying the boat. Not just the purchase price, but lots and lots of other aspects. So I hope you found this video informative. If you did, why don't you give me a thumbs up? And if you haven't, maybe you want to subscribe to my channel to see more content like this, as well as those boring videos when I go out and sail the boat around here in Maine or visit Acadia National Park or something like that. Anyway, thanks for watching.